This is TWiT.
This top story, this has been interesting. So I found myself more and more interested in the comings and the goings of the cryptocurrency world in the past many months. And yesterday was a very big day, I would say. Definitely a day that many crypto investors were bracing for, or at least maybe fearing, depends on who you asked. Across the board, the crypto market tumbled. Pretty dramatic fall from pretty incredible heights prior. It was kind of a bull market. It really took off, I think, late last year. It started to really catch some steam. Bitcoin reached its highest point of nearly $65,000. And then yesterday, things kind of came back down to earth in a grand way. So joining us to talk about yesterday's big sell-off and what it means going forward is Jeff John Roberts, who's the executive editor at Decrypt. Welcome back to the show, Jeff.
Hey, Jason, great to be here. Just the outset, I got to say props to the MySQL pun. I haven't heard that, but that's brilliant.
It really is. I know. The second we heard it, we were like, whoa, wait a minute. Where has that been for the last year? Yeah, totally agree. So let's start off a little bit with, you wrote about all of the many forces that are pointing at this kind of crypto market correction that happened starting yesterday anyways, a $500 billion evaporation of the market. And that's no small number. I think everybody's, heard the comments by Elon Musk and the moves by Tesla regarding Bitcoin. So it's easy to point fingers at Elon. At least, he could be the easy person to blame. But you actually write that there's a whole lot of other elements at play here. Kind of start by explaining what you mean by all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when there's a major market crash, people like to say, oh, it's because of this. But right. It's not usually that, and that's the case here as well. What was going on is, asset prices were just inflated. Call it a bubble if you want, call it something else, but it was just kind of overdue for a correction of some sort. So there will be a sort of triggering factor, but it's not just one thing that explains it. It's kind of like World War I. I realize this is kind of old geeky history, but Franz Ferdinand or whatever his name got shot, and everyone started fighting. But there was a lot more going on. That's what happened here. Elon Musk didn't help. Rumors out of China didn't help. But, it was basically, the market was waiting for this. And when it happened, a bunch of cascading factors, kicked into place, including a sell-off by a bunch of people who were, leveraged. And then you got yesterday, Bitcoin falling to nearly 30,000, from, sort of 45,000. And that's sort of what's going on. You can pile on other factors where some people say it's tax day. A lot of people made a lot of money in crypto last year. They had to file with the IRS, and pay Uncle Sam. That didn't help. So it's just this sort of interlocking series of factors that sort of sparked this panic. And then it becomes a general panic. And then people just start selling because everyone else is selling. So, Elon Musk, I think, kind of helped kick off the fun, but a lot of other stuff is going on too.
Yeah, Elon's comments definitely seemed to to kind of change the mindset. Prior to that, it really seemed like everybody, as I've been following it anyways, everybody was just incredibly positive about, yes, everything's going to go through the roof and it's going to continue and there is no end in sight. Once Elon started kind of opening his mouth about a lot of this stuff, it really changed the tenor of things. Whether one person should have that kind of influence over this sort of thing or not is a whole different story. But nonetheless, that's at least what kind of seemed to shift the conversation a little bit. You mentioned China, and you wrote about China, of course. What were the different people who were writing about China's involvement with pulling back from crypto or reporting it? Are they reporting it incorrectly? What's the misconception there as far as China's involvement with crypto and the changes very recently?
Yeah, I don't want to take a shot at another news outlet, and it's one I used to work at, Reuters, but Reuters has a penchant for reporters getting rewarded for stories. It's exclusive. And so, they came out with this screaming headline of China bans cryptocurrency, and they walked it back a bit. What's really going on in 2017 that's, Communist Party of China has said financial, institutions do not get involved, do not touch this stuff. That was from 2017. And what happened, I think, on Monday was I think the Chinese central bank and someone else in China reiterated that this is the policy. So it's kind of like non-news news, but the market was so skittish and waiting for something like this that the Reuters thing set off a bunch of panic social media tweets. China bans cryptocurrency. No, they didn't. They just sort of cautioned financial institutions from using it. But that, fed into the general skittishness that Musk had drummed up over the weekend and set off a news cycle of kind of panic selling. And as you said, the narrative shifts. With the markets, it's often a narrative. Everything's great. This is going up. And then when it goes the other way, suddenly everything's bad. And it confirms all your worst fears. So, it's just this sort of hysteria out there. But, if you've been around crypto for a long time, you've seen it before. And it's just been a long time since we've had like a good old fashioned Bitcoin crash. And now the stakes are a lot higher because the price is a lot higher. A lot more people are playing. So.
Yeah. Not only are the prices higher, but there's a lot more retail investors. I would say in the last 6 months, let's say, when things have just been screaming, and especially with, meme coins, which we can talk about, but it really seems like there's a lot of people who are entering into the market that maybe, had written cryptocurrency and trading in crypto off for years. And then suddenly they're like, well, wait a minute. I understand a little bit more about how you can actually make money here, to the moon. And then something like this happens. It's a lot of those people, it's their first time experiencing any sort of correction. For them, it's just been up, and now not so much.
Totally. And I think the fact that you said to the moon, which is kind of like an insider crypto thing, or used to be, but now it's kind of gone mainstream. The fact sort of a mainstream tech site like yours is using that phrase, which once upon a time would only be kind of a limited number of Bitcoin geeks. But you're totally right. And so all of these voices amplify the hype cycle on the way up and the panic on the way down. So, it's, I think, important to kind of step back and look at, that this is, cyclical. And you saw that Bitcoin kind of, corrected itself and came back above 40,000 today. And then the IRS came out with some scary news and went back down, but not to the same degree. It's just, I think, the function of kind of like asset bubbles and manias. You're going to see this stuff. And, it used to be a regular feature of the crypto cycle. It's just been a while since we've seen it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the IRS news. Are you referring to the Biden news that something about that? I think I just saw this right before showtime. $10,000 transfers might have a requirement of being reporting. Is that what you're talking about? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's not good in a sense. I mean, I think crypto defenders saying like, what the heck, this, why are you sort of singling out these assets? But it is going to cause problems and fear in the markets. It seems a bit of overdoing by the IRS, but the bigger picture, the U.S. Treasury is like on the warpath for money. And in the past, they went after Swiss bank accounts, and this year's sort of asset they're hunting is crypto, and that just means they're kind of turning up the dial a lot. And the reality is there is a lot of people who use crypto to evade taxes. So, I think it's bad news for them, but for ordinary people, it shouldn't be.
Well, and continually the often the sphere or the view of crypto is seen through this very kind of like what's the word that I'm looking for? Looking at crypto as a way to get around, a lot of other things. It could be getting around taxes, or it could be making money fast, or whatever. Like one thing that I'm reminded of is that I've read at least a little bit of this like general consensus or conspiracy around this idea that institutional investors are actually manipulating the market so that, to kind of bleed the retail investors from the money that they've put in so that they can get a larger claim and everything. There's just a lot of like you mentioned the word hysteria around crypto because of what is uncertain, and that only feeds into it. Is there any legitimacy to claims such as those? I guess maybe it's impossible to know for certain, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, I think you're not wrong. I think with mainstream cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're less vulnerable to being kind of manipulated. Or in the industry, they talk about whales. There's sort of people who hold like, millions of this stuff, and they might cooperate with each other in secret Telegram chats to talk it up. Right. And then, kind of spurts, on Twitter, use social media to spur interest in it. And then when it goes up, the bag holders dump what they have and fleece retail people. This has been part of crypto since the beginning. And unfortunately, it's still going on. But as things like Bitcoin and Ethereum become mainstream, it's harder to do that. So they move to altcoins, and you see these, sort of charlatans on social media saying laser eyes to the moon, blah, blah, blah. And they get other people with large social media followers, and it's not, it's not a good thing. And, it just, I think, underscores you really should know what you're doing before you go into this. Get familiar with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and, if you want to pile into Doge, well, be my guest, but it just seems like a bad idea. And especially the sort of offshoots. There was a thing last week called like SHIB, based on Shiba Inu coin. And that was one of the most sort of like disgraceful, social media pumps I've seen. But, part of it's buyer beware. I mean, what do you expect is going to happen? I don't want to sound insensitive, but because I know some people, a friend gives them a tip and it goes up and this sounds great and they lose a bunch of money. But, it's as I keep saying, buyer beware out there.
Yeah, I mean, all it takes is one article. I think I saw an article last week about two brothers or something that invested early in Shiba Inu, and suddenly they're up 10 million. And all it takes is one of those stories to go any sort of mainstream, and suddenly you have a bunch of new people, new investors, thinking, oh, well, I want to do that too. And that only has bad outcomes, in my opinion. I think a lot of people share that opinion. So no question that this rise in meme coin action, Doge, Shiba, there's a whole bunch of them there, could have been, I think a lot of people pointed to those, have been pointing to those anyways, and saying, this gives me a bad feeling that, this tells me that there is some sort of a shift upcoming. Do you think that was part of what we're seeing here as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's sort of been, like this can't last feeling going on for a while. And the chickens came home to roost. But, I also want to underscore that, I don't like this stuff because it sort of tarnishes the crypto industry more broadly. There's a lot of really valuable and important projects being built out there and really cool technology, that's remaking sort of like, the idea of building Web3 and, moving to decentralized foundation is a great goal. A lot of the financial innovation is wonderful, but then you sort of get these, sort of moron crypto bros coming in, doing pump and dumps right and left, and it makes everyone else look shady, which I think is a shame. I mean, I was a mainstream tech journalist for years. I went into crypto in part because I believe in the technology, but, sort of stuff like this just really, makes everyone look bad.
Yeah, agreed.